All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, we all understand how the justice system in America works, or we should understand how it works by now. And the American justice system is nothing but a way to reinstitute slavery. We understand about the 13th Amendment that says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, nothing about voluntary servitude, by the way, but neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except for punishment for a crime where you have been duly convicted shall exist in the United States. Meaning if you're convicted of a crime, you are still a slave in America. For all those people telling us to get over slavery. And we understand most of the people in jail are from nonviolent drug offenses. And most of them are black people. And don't let them keep using the talking point that 50% of the crime is committed by this small population. And that's who's in jail. Because that's not true. Violent crime has gone down. And they commit far more violent crime. And despite the opioid epidemic going on, and weed being legalized in so many states in America, most of the people in jail are black people convicted of non-violent drug offenses. But then you have those people who are convicted of violent offenses. There are countless people, especially black men, in jail for crimes they never even committed, despite lack of evidence, due to all-white juries, and racist DA, racist judges, racist police. And they not only do this to maintain slavery, but to maintain power. And to put fear into other people's hearts. They'll take a leader and make an example out of them. And this is one method they always use to take out our leaders. In Baltimore, back in 1970, a Black Panther Party member, Marshall Eddie Conway, was arrested for the murder of a police officer. Now, Eddie Conway wasn't aware that some of the members were agents in the FBI and the cointelpro program were following them and keeping tabs on them. And they were specifically keeping tabs on him because he had the ability to organize the people. So then one night, 2 Baltimore cops ended up getting shot and one of them was killed. And the police ended up arresting 2 black men who were nearby just because they fit the description. And they were targeting the Black Panthers and they claimed they were part of the organization or at least new members in the organization. So not long after that, another white cop was chasing a black man on foot and he claimed the black man fired several shots and was able to get away. Now, since the 2 black men that were arrested for the murder of the other cop was affiliated with the Black Panthers, the police started showing them photo lineups. Now, the police illegally put Eddie Conway's photo in every single lineup and pointed him out to make sure that the person picked him out. So then the police arrested Eddie Conway at his job for the murder of the cop, even though he was working at the time the cop got shot. And his supervisor even vouched for him. And when he went to trial, his supervisor even went to testify for him to give him an alibi. But they never gave this brother a chance for a fair trial. 2 lawyers that represented the Black Panthers offered their service for free, but the courts denied the request. So this brother had to get a court-appointed lawyer that did no pre-trial investigation. He didn't meet with him before the trial. One of the witnesses from the lineup refused to testify and said a statement from the police was coerced. They forced him to say it. And their whole case was based off one photo ID by some random cop and an informant they put in his cell who claimed that he confessed to him. But this brother protested him being put in the cell from the beginning because he knew he was an informant. But despite all the evidence, this brother Eddie Conway was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Now, he spent 44 years in prison and was released in 2014. But they made sure they took this brother off the street because at that time they were really against the Panthers. And no matter what the generation, they're against anybody for black liberation. Because we have to understand white supremacy can only be defined by black inferiority. If they don't have black inferiority, what is white supremacy? And for us, especially black men, you don't even have to be a leader to end up in that situation. Because the same thing happened to countless brothers time and time again. In North Carolina, 5 black teenagers were convicted in the tragic murder of Nathaniel Jones back in 2002. Now let's go back and see what happened.
We've learned there is new evidence in a murder case that sent 5 Winston-Salem teenagers to prison almost 20 years ago.
This case involves the 2002 murder of Nathaniel Jones, the grandfather of NBA All-Star Chris Paul.
Bill O'Neill is in Raleigh to explain what this new information is and what happens now.
We don't know anything about the new evidence in this case. Investigators will present that information at a public hearing next month. What we can tell you is that public hearings are rare. This agency has existed for roughly a dozen years, and in that time, 15 hearings have taken place. Out of those 15 hearings, 12 men were set free.
Guilty of second-degree murder. Guilty of second-degree murder. Guilty of second-degree murder.
They were teenagers when a judge sentenced them to prison for killing Chris Paul's grandfather, Nathaniel Jones. Rayshawn Banner, Nathaniel Cawthon, Jamal Tolliver, Chris Bryant, and Darrell Brayboy.
It's been a long 9 days, but, justice was served.
Today, they're all in their early 30s, with the exception of Darrell Brayboy, who was stabbed to death last summer. Brayboy, along with Tolliver and Bryant, were released from prison after serving 12 years. Banner and Cawthon remain locked up, serving life sentences.
So we have a very broad authority to simply get to the truth.
WXII 12 News has learned state investigators have called for a public hearing on the case against the Winston-Salem Five. They would not discuss the specific case, but explain how the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission works.
What's it take to get to a hearing stage? Because it sounds as if getting there is not easy.
It's not easy. So we have a very rigorous review process. We're looking for something new, and that new evidence has to be credible and verifiable. The new is the big deal, and then once we have something new, it's really trying to figure out whether it's credible, verifiable.
We don't know what's new in the case against the Winston-Salem Five, but investigators say typical evidence in these cases involves DNA, fingerprints, a recanting witness, and possibly a new witness coming forward. The two attorneys heading the commission, the only state agency of its kind in the country, not only won't discuss specific cases, they wouldn't even confirm what case will be heard at next month's public hearing.
It's a balance of our ability to complete investigations under our confidentiality so that those investigations are proper and can be trusted without any kind of interference. And
WXII 12 News has confirmed from other sources the March 9th hearing will deal with the case against the Winston-Salem Five. An 8-member commission will hear evidence presented by staff inside this room at the North Carolina Judicial Center in Raleigh. Winston-Salem attorney Michael Grace, a member of the commission, tells WXII 12 News he has recused himself because of his personal relationship with the victim's family. During the hearing, witnesses will be called, including those convicted of the crime, as well as the victim's family members. If a majority of the commission finds the new evidence warrants further judicial review, the case is referred to a 3-judge panel, which then determines the final truth.
This second chance for the Winston-Salem Five is connected to another Winston-Salem case, Darrell Hunt. When Darrell Hunt was released from prison after 18 years for a crime he didn't commit, lawmakers decided they needed to take action, and they launched the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission.
Now, some of you may be familiar with Chris Paul in the NBA and the story about his grandfather and how he was murdered. ESPN did a story years ago about how Chris Paul scored 61 points to honor his grandfather. But back in 2002, after this tragic murder, 5 teenage brothers, 14 and 15 years old, were arrested and charged for it. Now, after hours of trying to force a confession using tactics like threatening them, talking about they're going to get the death penalty, and they questioned these juveniles, 14 and 15 years old, without their parents, without any lawyers. And after hours, they told them if they just confessed, they can go home. But if they didn't confess, they would make sure they get the death penalty. The police even forced a witness to make statements, and she did. And eventually, even though these brothers was 14 and 15 years old, the Winston-Salem Five were convicted. 2 of them are serving life in prison. 2 of them served 15 years in prison before they eventually got out. And the 5th brother also got out, but he was killed in an unrelated incident. But then all of a sudden, 18 years later, the white girl, Jessicah Black, whose testimony put them on the scene, and the only thing that got them convicted in the first place, decided to come back and recant her story.
The key witness who recanted her testimony in a video deposition shown to commissioners yesterday, today appeared as a live witness, answering questions from those same commissioners. Jessicah Black spent several hours testifying how Winston-Salem police threatened a 16-year-old with prison if she didn't tell them what they wanted to hear.
When I went in there through that interrogation, when I first sat down with them, I told him the exact thing I just sat here and told y'all about where we went. Off get-go, I was told I was lying, and it was a constant beat me down over I'm lying.
And how Forsyth County prosecutors provided her with a script telling her what to say during the trial.
This is what you said, so go ahead and take us home with you. Prepare for what you're fixing to go through. And that's what I did.
Black recanted her testimony, saying she never saw the murder of Nathaniel Jones. Commissioners asked her today why, after all these years, she's decided to come forward.
What were you expecting to happen by coming forward and changing your story?
That everything be set right the way it should be, and what happened in those rooms and stuff be known. Like what I mean, just that everything was set straight.
Black was the only eyewitness to the murder. Her testimony helped convict 5 Winston-Salem teenagers, 2 of whom, Nathaniel Cawthon and Rayshawn Banner, who remain in prison today. Commissioners asked Black what she would say to the families of the young men who went to prison, thanks in part to her false testimony.
And I'm sorry that I gave false testimony, and I'm sorry that I'm just sorry.
One of the commissioners noted today that it was clear to him Jessicah Black had suffered a traumatic experience with this case and asked whether or not she had ever gotten professional help. Ms. Black answered when she was 19 or 20 years of age, she did get help.
Now, back in 2002, this white girl, Jessicah Black, as the key witness, said she drove these brothers to a park near Nathaniel Jones' house, even though she only knew him for about a month or 2. So then in the story, she said she heard them planning to rob somebody. Then at the time of the murder, she was just sitting in the park, I guess just sitting there by herself, and she heard screams. But then all of a sudden, 18 years later, she came back and said it was all a lie. She said she drove them around that night and they were smoking weed and they were stopping at different places, but it was nowhere near the murder. And they didn't rob anybody. She said she did try to tell the police that night, but they kept trying to say she was lying and they threatened her with jail. And she said at 16, I was scared, so they forced her to lie and they give false testimony. And then they gave her the script and told her to practice exactly what to say. And then damn near 20 years later, after the fact, they talking about this white girl being traumatized and asking her has she seen a therapist or got help. Meanwhile, 2 of these brothers are still sitting in jail, and despite this new evidence, and the only thing that got them convicted was her story being recanted, they're still dragging their feet and taking as long as they can to get these brothers a new trial.
Nearly 20 years later, the murder of Chris Paul's grandfather is coming back to Winston-Salem for a new trial.
Earlier this evening, members of the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission voted to give 4 men convicted of that 2002 murder a second chance to clear their names.
Our Bill O'Neill has been covering this hearing all week and joins us now in Raleigh with new details.
Tonight's decision means that a 3-judge panel will now decide the fate of Nathaniel Cawthon, Rayshawn Banner, Jamal Tolliver, and Chris Bryant.
I'm happy about it, and I think they made a good decision, and they made the right decision. And I'm just going to continue to fight for my innocence.
It means a lot. I just want to thank God. Like, I just been wanting to be heard for so long, me and all my other co-defendants. Like, we've been through a lot.
Whew. Whoa. It feels really good to get to this stage. It's rare that it gets to this stage, but the fact that this case made it to this stage is all right with me.
By a 5-3 vote, the commission finds sufficient evidence to merit a judicial review. During the week-long hearing, the key witness in the case recanted her testimony. Today, each of the defendants, now all in their early 30s, testified how Winston-Salem detectives coerced confessions through threats, including threats of the death penalty. Commissioners asked the defendants again and again, why did you confess to a crime you didn't commit? Nathaniel Cawthon, one of the 2 men still in prison for the murder of Nathaniel Jones, responded to commissioners.
This is after I've been crying. This is after I've been asked to go home. This is after the police had already threatened me several times. What you want me to do? I'm 15 years old. I can't read or write. I know no better. Only thing I know is my mama's at home. I don't know where I'm at. What you want me to say?
Attorneys for the defendants say the case marks a victory for the fight against false confessions.
False confessions are real. They really happen. It's very hard for people to believe, but it's a struggle.
The fact that false confessions happens is something people find hard to believe, but the Central Park Five and the Netflix When They See Us film certainly highlighted that. This is 2002, right? This is 2002 when you wouldn't think this kind of thing still would have been happening.
The executive director of the Innocence Commission says that Forsyth County DA Jim O'Neill accused the commission of bias. Several commission members responded, saying that O'Neill's marks were highly offensive and ignorant. In Raleigh, I'm Bill O'Neill, WXII 12 News.
Attorneys for the defendants say the trial before that 3-judge panel in Winston-Salem won't be happening anytime soon. It could take a year or more to get to that point.
Now, we'll see what happens in this case, but there are thousands of cases, thousands of black people, thousands of black men who never get a chance to get even this close. And so many people, despite all the evidence and the sham trials, they'll never see their freedom. And even though it took this white girl 20 years to say something, most of the witnesses like her who was forced or not forced to testify, they'll take it to their grave before they ever say a word. Especially when they coerce young black men, black children, into confessing. They used to use a tactic called mock lynching to force confessions, where they gather up a mob and act like they're going to lynch the person until the person confesses to the crime. It's just that sometimes they actually hung the person before they confessed. And then if they did confess, they hung them anyway. The only difference is now they need us in jail cells so they can make money. That's how they keep their profit. That's how they keep us as slaves. They just didn't need jail cells back then. But this is why we need to build our own institution. Because there should be justice for Nathaniel Jones. But just putting anybody in jail isn't justice. All you've done is create another injustice. But they don't care because our lives are a dime a dozen and it's all the same to them. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you have. And we have to understand that. We have to be responsible for punishing our own. America isn't going to let North Korea punish American citizens. And we can't let outsiders punish our own. And it doesn't mean no justice. In fact, that's the only way we will get justice is when we give it to ourselves.
If you're a minority, you're a fucking piece of shit. You should get the fuck out of this country. That'd be cool. What else? White power, 1488.
Shocking video tonight. This shows high school students laughing and joking as they dress up like the KKK and they mock lynchings. All of this happening at the Cristo Rey Atlanta Jesuit High School. CBS 46's Brittany Miller is live at the school where there is now an investigation. Brittany.
That's right. I've also confirmed tonight that the students involved in that incident at this very school are now on indefinite suspension. In the meantime, the president confirming with me tonight that this behavior will not be tolerated. These exclusive videos are hard to watch and even harder to stomach. Posted to social media, they show a group of Atlanta high school students in a boys' bathroom pretending to lynch another student.
I was extremely disappointed and saddened by the whole thing.
The caption on one video reads KKK, their heads covered in white tissue with holes around the eyes. Then you see a black student with tissue wrapped around his neck, tied to the bathroom stall like a rope. At one point, he lifts himself up and hangs his head to the side.
I get it. There are teenagers, but this shouldn't be tolerated.
These students attend Cristo Rey Atlanta Jesuit High School, which is 56% Latino and 40% African American, according to staff.
Very shocking and disheartening to be able to know that somebody I sit next to in class, somebody who I present my projects with, somebody who I talk to on a daily basis at lunch, the fact that you feel this way towards me.
Students say faculty held an assembly to talk about the issue and later had a meeting with parents.
I do know the school seems to be taking it very, very seriously.
Many students telling me they're worried conversations aren't enough to prevent the discrimination they face every day.
I think that the racial discrimination that plays a part in this world definitely made its way into Cristo Rey. And you see that in the video, and we see that walking up and down the stairs every day.
And so the big question right now, what's being done to make sure this does not happen again? The president telling me and admitting to me really that they do need more cultural sensitivity training, also telling me that they're now working with the National Center for Civil and Human Rights to develop a program.
A series of videos showing up on Snapchat and viewed by phone. A case opens to reveal a rifle. A white student yells a profanity against a classmate while wearing a noose. Then a handgun is fired. We edited the video to protect the identities of both the potential victim and student under investigation. It's hard to hear what the student on camera says, but he addresses Tanya Porter's son by name.
Day I heard, "You must die." I knew I had to do something because that was a threat. And then with the noose and the gun, it all just tied together.
Both students are upperclassmen at Modesto Central Catholic High.
The news?
Porter says she first reported the video to the district at the end of March, then showed it to administrators Monday.
I waited all day yesterday for a response. I waited all day today for a response. So I did what I needed to do to protect my son.
Tuesday, she went to Modesto police. Detectives are now investigating the video as a hate crime.
If we think it has something to do with a hate crime, we're going to investigate it as such, and there really is no gray area for us. We're going to make sure we investigate it to the fullest.
In a statement to KCRA 3 News, the school's president writes, "We have received what we believe is a copy of the video and are currently investigating the facts related to it. Our students and families are our top priority, and I can assure you we will take whatever steps we deem necessary to continue to ensure their safety." However, Porter says the student in the video is still in school undisciplined.
We cannot ignore the warning signs. This is a warning sign. So if he does this, who's not to say he will bring a gun to school?
She isn't sure whether the video was meant as a joke or not, but says she's not willing to risk finding out.
Because if I ignore it, somebody may get hurt. It may be my son, it may be other students on campus there.
Dressed as KKK members, armed with torches, terrorizing trick-or-treaters.
We have the photo you have to see. Tonight, an Oklahoma mayor saying sorry for what her husband and his friends did. This all happened in Lahoma, that's near Enid. KOCO's Mecca Rain just returned from there. Mecca?
Paul and Jess, I had a long conversation with the mayor. She cried and said she is truly sorry for what her husband and 3 other men did last night.
Happened on my property. You know, I don't know what else to say other than I'm sorry to the community and I'm sorry to the public.
Lahoma Mayor Teresa Sharp holding back tears as we talk tonight about these pictures making the rounds on social media. Men in Ku Klux Klan robes, one of them her husband.
It was the stupidity and actions of 4 separate individuals, and it does not reflect on me or anybody else within the community.
Sharp's husband Kerry told us the Hoods, Cross, and Bonfire all for Halloween.
A cousin of mine come up with the idea of dressing up, you know, like KKK members. And so we took a couple of sheets and cut holes in them and wore sheets, and very, very poor decision.
Witnesses say the men also took to a golf cart, frightful for some.
It's not okay for anybody, period. And the mayor needs to take some responsibility for what her husband did.
I never realized that it would have been this harmful. I truly apologize to everybody for this.
Now, I've been talking with the Garfield County Sheriff all day. He says the costumes were created in poor taste, but as far as he knows, no crimes were committed. He did, however, tell me they may turn it over to the DA as protocol.
These costumes are just a misunderstanding. Well, tonight we're seeing pictures of what appear to be Wiregrass Ranch high school students dressed in KKK hoods and sheets. You see them there. New tonight, ABC Action News reporter Eric Waxter live at the Wesley Chapel School and tells us how the school is now dealing with this issue out there. Eric?
Yeah, Wendy, when we first heard about this from a really upset parent, we went to the school district and they told us that they were just ghost costumes that the teens were wearing. But after we got a look at the pictures on social media, that ghost story didn't really add up at all. Pictures of 3 students dressed in white sheets.
Nothing surprises me now.
With white pointed hoods and eye holes cut out.
It's kind of sick.
Initial reports from Wiregrass Ranch High School said they were ghost costumes, part of Spirit Week dress-up day. Then came these images shared all over social media. Superintendent Kurt Browning saw them too.
Usually ghosts don't have pointed hoods.
Since our kids kneeled at the football game for the first time last week, there's been a lot of racial tension in the community. Never would I've expected that students or even families would have taken it as far as wearing Ku Klux Klan paraphernalia to the school.
But it turns out that under those sheets are 3 minority students. The school district says 2 are Hispanic and 1 Middle Eastern.
The last thing we need to do is have any student dressed up, regardless of race, dressed up in that type of costume.
Along with the 3 students in sheets, another wore a Confederate flag as a cape. He was asked to take it off and was not disciplined. Wiregrass assistant football coach Brandon Tanner says it's important to address racial issues head on.
This is not something that should be representative of the school. You know, I live in this neighborhood. You know, I don't deal with that kind of, bigotry where I live.
The district won't say how the 3 students in those KKK outfits are being punished, but they say it could include up to a 10-day out-of-school suspension. Live in Wesley Chapel, Eric Waxler, ABC Action News.
Eric, thank you. And all this comes a day after people in 2 other Pasco County neighborhoods telling us they found KKK flyers on their doorsteps. As we told you last night at 11, the papers left in Port Richey and Hudson appear to be an attempt to recruit new members to local KKK chapters.
We turn now to a follow-up to that investigation into racist posts targeting African-American middle school students in Raleigh County. Those posts are directed at some students who attend Independence Middle School. One victim tells WVVA the author of the post is another student at the school. The Raleigh County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation into this incident after the offensive posts were brought to light last week. 8th grader Jamarian Henderson says he'd accept the apology of the person who went on Instagram and called him the N-word and said that he belongs in a cotton field, but he can't speak for the other victims.
I'm not the only student. She talked a lot about one of my best friends.
WVVA obtained this screenshot you're seeing here of yet another one of those posts made on an Instagram group called IMS Gossip. It was directed at a female student. The author uses the N-word again, and in that post claims that blacks are spreading in Indy, adding that they need to stay out of the community and should go back to, quote, the ghetto where they came from. It ends by citing it's Black History Month and adds, where's White History Month? Raleigh County School Superintendent David Price confirms that Sheriff's Department resource officer investigating these racist posts. He says right now it does not appear that they were made on school property or by using a school device. He adds, there is zero tolerance policy in place for cyberbullying in Raleigh County schools, and there have been no reports of fights or any disruptions of any kind at Independence Middle School related to the posts. He adds, it's a real shame because the bad behavior of the person responsible is not a true reflection of the school or the community, and there are a lot of great students and great people there.
Well, a day of celebration overshadowed by a senior prank gone terribly wrong.
Yeah, graffiti greeted students arriving at Glenelg High School this morning. 4 students were detained by police. WMAR 2 News' Mallory Safaste tells us how school administrators dealt with this today.
Yeah, Jamie Kelly, this wasn't just graffiti. What happened at the school is being investigated as a hate crime. Howard County Schools Interim Superintendent Dr. Michael Martirano saying today that in his more than 30 years as an educator, he's never seen this amount of graffiti at one school. And he is sending a strong message to the perpetrators and anyone else that perceives the spray paint as harmless.
The culprits covered nearly every surface.
Sidewalks, trash cans, bricks, outbuildings, everything that possibly could be available with spray paint, etc.
Racial epithets, bias-related, anti-Semitic, things that were directed at the principal of the high school.
No group seemed to be spared from this piece.
In the eyes of the superintendent, this hateful expression crossed a line. He sees the slur aimed at the school's principal as an attack.
We have an African-American principal at the school who was a target of this, which then, in my estimation, rises to the level of a hate crime. We will not tolerate this in Howard County or in the Howard County public school system.
Howard County Police charged 4 students, all 18 years old, with hate crimes. The teens were seen on surveillance video spray painting the school that staff worked quickly to clean.
18-year-old Matthew Lipp in front and 18-year-old Tyler Curtis left Howard County's courthouse in handcuffs, headed for jail. Their punishment very similar to Joshua Schaefer's, seen on the left, and Seth Taylor's, who were sentenced earlier. All were seniors at the school and preparing to graduate. They say it started as a drunken prank. In court, Lipp and Curtis called it a stupid act and say they are not racist. They apologized to the community and the school, and David Burton, the school's principal.
It was devastating for all of us. A lot of fear and uncertainty and angst because of this incident.
The defense believes the hate crime charges were excessive for a case of vandalism.
In my view, it was a very heavy-handed approach to charge this hate crime. It could have been charged as malicious destruction of property, or it could have been charged as defacement of school property.
Because of their age and no criminal records, the judge reduced their prison sentences to time in county jail and community service. Joshua Schaefer will serve 18 weekends. Seth Taylor received 9 weekends. Matthew Lipp was sentenced to 16 weekends, Tyler Curtis 8 weekends. But their criminal records for committing hate crimes could last a lifetime.
Today, federal prosecutors charged 5 people connected to a white supremacist group with plotting to intimidate journalists and others, including a cabinet secretary, by terrorizing them in their homes. Jeff Pegues has more on the suspects.
The arrest involved members of a neo-Nazi group called Atomwaffen, which has been on law enforcement's radar for several years.
They vowed to accelerate the collapse of civilization using violence, mass murder, hate, and threat.
The 5 individuals are all charged with making threats. 4 were involved in a plot to send hate-filled posters like this one to the homes of journalists and activists, many of them Jewish. The 5th, John Cameron Denton, is alleged to have called in fake threats to a Virginia university, a historic black church, and even then, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. Earlier this month, FBI Director Christopher Wray elevated racially motivated violent extremism to a national threat priority.
Not only is the terror threat diverse, it's unrelenting.
According to the Anti-Defamation League, domestic extremists were responsible for at least 42 deaths last year alone, and 90% of those were linked to right-wing extremists.
The violence associated with these groups has surpassed the violence associated with groups that we deem international terrorism groups here in the United States.
The FBI has now created a domestic hate crimes and terrorism fusion cell to investigate these cases, and that involves working undercover and tracking what suspects are doing online if, Nora, there is evidence that they are planning violence.
This is now one of the top threats.
It is.
RPD announced today that Officer Drew Rao is on unpaid leave after Internal Affairs reviewed this video. You can see Rao repeatedly punching a man and cursing during this March traffic stop.
Rao joined the department 2 years ago. Now he could be fired after a hearing in front of the city's Labor Relations Board. No date has been set for that yet.
New tonight, 24-Hour News 8's Marvis Herring spoke one-on-one with the Kent County Commissioner, who says whatever happens from here will have a major impact on police-community relations.
Marley and Brian, good evening. A neighbor recorded that March 17th incident to social media, and within hours, thousands of people had seen it. Tonight, Commissioner Robert S. Womack says even more eyes are on the Grand Rapids Police Department. He hopes they make the right decision. For him, that's firing Officer Drew Rao.
Hands behind your back, I'm gonna hit you again. Haze me again. Hands behind your back.
Tased and punched, Bronquell Brown yelled, "I'm not doing nothing." This body camera footage revealing his cries for mercy did nothing to block more blows from Officer Drew Rao's fist.
I just was shocked that there were still some people in denial
that this happens in our neighborhoods.
We were there today as Kent County Commissioner Robert S. Womack read GRPD's news inside his Grand Rapids radio station. GRPD admits Rao violated several policies. The Kent County prosecutor reviewed the case and chose not to file any charges.
The prosecutor did not charge the police officer for hitting this man over 21 times while he's being held down. But I guarantee this young man is probably going to be prosecuted for being afraid to get out of the car.
It's a case he's close to. He was even there the night Brown bonded out of the Kent County jail. We were too.
My body is sore right now, like my whole body is sore.
Brown spoke exclusively with News 8, telling us he wasn't angry, but the police officer was wrong. Commissioner Womack agrees.
So I believe in our police. I'm not anti-police, I'm just anti-bad cops. He's a bad cop. He needs to be fired immediately.
Rao pulled Brown over in this driveway on California Street near National on March 17th. When Brown didn't get out as instructed, the officer broke his window and pulled him out. Before long, there was pepper spray, tasers, punches, and profanity. Brown's 6-year-old son was in the back seat, but front row to this nightmare.
We have some things we have to change in the community, but the police have been getting away with the things they've been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years when it comes to African Americans. And this is the generation that's standing up saying they're not going to take it no more, and they're armed with a very valuable tool. That cell phone. This is a true test for GRPD, a true test for the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. I hope he is fired and that justice is served.
And Commissioner Robert Womack says there is an opportunity for a learning opportunity here for the community about complying with police officers and then later filing a complaint. He does say that Brown was also the subject of some physical activity with Grand Rapids police officers last summer that may have played a role in why he didn't get out of the car. Brown does still face a felony charge of resisting and obstructing.
We're here in Portland, Oregon. These cops must be out of their fucking mind to actually be pulling up on me. So we're in front of PSU. I don't even know what these cops want. So you better have a good explanation to why you're approaching me.
They had a robbery like 2 blocks down.
So don't approach me. I didn't rob anyone. I'm coming from the college. I'm on heightened alert, and you are being recorded. Okay. Why are you talking to me? I am the legal guy. So I don't match a description of any robbery. I'm not showing you ID, and call your sergeant. I'm waiting on the train. I know my constitutional rights. Do not take another step forward, okay? You're being recorded because you guys are definitely racist. I don't fit a description of anyone. I've been here waiting on a train. So call your sergeant. We're live in Portland, Oregon. More with this racist bullshit. So everyone's being recorded now. You rolled up on me. So call your sergeant. I don't match a description of anything. And robbery from where? Because I'm coming from the college. I have alibis and multiple witnesses that says I was in PSU. I'm an affiliate of the college. So you better have a good fucking explanation to why you're approaching me. And I match the description of a robbery suspect is not fucking good enough. I don't like fucking racist cops, so you better make it good, because it's going to be a lawsuit on the city. I was at Miller Library. Yeah, go check. And for wasting my fucking time, I'm going to sue you. You guys are racist pieces of shit, and you rolled up on me while I'm waiting on the fucking train. Like I said, you better make it good, and you better stay right there. Put your fucking hands where I can see them. I don't trust you racist pigs. No, it's not okay. No, don't ride on. These guys are racist. They said I matched the description of a robbery suspect. And I'm coming from the college. They're with the Portland Police Department. They rolled up on me, and good thing I'm quick at the draw with the phone. They literally said I matched a robbery suspect. This is the fucking game that these cops have been trained to do. When they see a black person in an area that they don't think the black person is supposed to be in. So no sirens, no loud sirens or anything. This guy has his lights on, but this is the car that approached me with its lights off. Is your sergeant coming?
No, I'm just looking you over. Because you're not wearing jeans, you're in sweatpants, dark jacket, beanie. Yeah. Whenever we get some of these, we try to identify anybody who's in the right clothing description. This guy's wearing a mask, so we don't know race, we don't know anything like that. But you're
try to tell it to the YouTube channel. That shit's not going to fly.
No,
so you just approach black people,
No,
hop out your car, for what reason?
Not black people, people who match the description.
So if the robbery suspect was white, I'm clearly not fucking white. So you're looking for black people.
No, we're looking for anyone who's matching the description.
We don't know what race he is, man.
So you're trying to tell me that you got a call.
Yes.
I want to get this fucking right.
Go for it.
That you got a call of a robbery suspect, but no fucking color of the robbery suspect.
Guy was wearing a mask.
A mask? Do I have a fucking mask?
It could be in your bag.
So my mask could be in my bag.
Yep, or you could have ditched it.
I could have ditched the mask.
Well, I should say the robbery suspect could have ditched it.
Really? Yes. You know what I think? I think you're fucking full of shit. And I think the whole city of racist is I think Portland's racist. The whole city of Portland is fucking racist. And you cops are pathetic, bro. Because if I wouldn't have been fucking recording you, you would have jumped all over me, right?
No, we would have asked your name.
And I would have declined because it's not a crime that I committed.
And then we would have continued on looking for more people.
I doubt it. Be on your way, man. You guys are fucking pathetic, man.
Right, this is for the black thing that started on me earlier, so if you're not her, keep scrolling. Now, I feel like this needs to be said, because you've said what you want to say to me, so I'm going to say it to you now, it's your turn. You've got some cheek talking about me when you're wearing clothes like this. You look like you're wearing your father's jeans. That's if you have a father, because he's probably still at the shop getting milk. The state of your hair, serious. Sort it out. You look like you've been dragged through a bush backwards, love. And you've got the audacity to say stuff about me and a TikTok that I posted. Saying, oh, you don't know what colour you are. I know what colour I am, and I prefer to be this colour than yours. And at least with my fake tan, that colour washes off, but your colour ain't coming off. So get back to the cotton fields and go make me another t-shirt.
His case is almost exactly like Jessicah Geronimo Pratt case, the way that they were framed.
I think my father did what he did because the community needed someone to step up and show some kind of leadership.
He has a personality and a calmness, and I mean, if it were me, I would be bitter. I would be very bitter against the system, and you know, I admire him. I really do.
It could have been any one of us.
That's right. That's right.
COINTELPRO picked him.
They didn't have a shred of evidence against Eddie.
The state is so bent on keeping a man like Eddie locked up and away from the community that they just refuse to acknowledge, even after all these years, what they did wrong, even though it's common knowledge.
This man has done 30 years. How much more time is the man going to do, considering, I mean, really considering when you look at his case and you look at that trial, that the man was unjustly, unjustly incarcerated.
Eddie has been, in my experience of him, a leader throughout his time in prison, and a leader for good, a leader for education, a leader for service, a leader for standing up for rights. Sometimes he suffered, I think, for that from the system. The system doesn't always welcome that kind of leadership.
Over the years, the organizers become targets. And when they become targets, the efforts are made to assassinate them or to move them out of the institution so that they don't have that effect on that population. But they know that if these organizers are any good, that they'll just organize wherever they go. So they'll really try to take them out, and efforts have been made to take Eddie out.